Shedeur Sanders made a little bit of waves yesterday when he was at Big 12 Media Days, and someone asked him, hey, do you feel an obligation to perform at a different level beyond, Deion Sanders' son? Which I don't think is an unfair question. I think that makes sense. And the way that he answered it is really what drew some reaction from the Twitter sphere. And it's Twitter. It is what it is. It's not real life, but it had a reaction nonetheless. He basically said, yes, of course I do. And then he went on to say, I understand now that with us at Colorado, we're going to be everyone's Super Bowl. Those are the words that he used, and that was the phrase that I think really set off most of social media. So what social media quickly came with is hey, y'all haven't made a bowl game. Y'all are that school that is playing for clicks. Y'all are the social media school. Y'all are this, y'all are that. And there was such a reaction saying no, you're not nobody's Super Bowl. All right, why don't you relax a little bit? And originally, hand up, I kind of had that same reaction. I was kind of man, don't know if that's really the verbiage that I would have used if I were Shedeur Sanders. But as I thought about it more, I was man, I don't know that he's all that wrong. But from a competitive perspective, yes, Colorado is not going to have the same kind of draw as the Super Bowl. Colorado went 4-8 last year, have an over-under win total of 5.5. Again, these are just facts. We're not hating. Teams in the NFL, if we're using the comp of the Super Bowl, that went around 500 last year were the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Bengals, not necessarily Super Bowl teams. So no, from a competitive perspective, the internet's right. Colorado is not a Super Bowl kind of opponent for teams, just to call a spade here. Now, however, I don't think that's exactly what Shedeur Sanders was speaking to when he said that we're going to be everybody's Super Bowl. What I think he meant was, or the way that I would agree with him was, Colorado is so polarizing and such a visible brand now in the college football landscape to where when you see them on the schedule, you circle that and you say, all right, we better lock in for that one for a lot of reasons. Because, again, going to have a national draw to it based on the viewership point of view, a lot of eyeballs on you. Two, whatever you do will probably end up on a YouTube video or a social media clip that will get a pretty high degree of traction. Well Off Media has almost 500,000 subscribers, which is Deion Sanders' son YouTube channel, which has a lot of Deion Sanders Jr., that is, which has a tremendous following, and it's a lot of Colorado football-centric content. Colorado has invited, though, that kind of attention onto themselves, which I have no issue with. That was part of the draw with bringing Deion Sanders to Colorado to be your head coach. They have invited that kind of polarizing reputation that they currently have. And so some of it's what they do on social media. Some of it's how they speak to the media. Deion Sanders, when he beat TCU and they beat TCU, he walks in and he's like, hey, do you believe now? And I understand the thought behind it saying all right, we took care of business. Who believes in us now? But what, in my mind, what that did was that caused people to have to pick sides. Are you in or out on Colorado? When in fairness, it was the first game. So to ask someone to be in or out on you overall, I understand where he's coming from, but from where I'm standing, it's I want to see a little bit more. I want to see what happens the rest of the season. Full transparency, I think that was fair for us to assume that. So when it comes to the rest of what they're going to be long term, yes, they're inviting some attention onto themselves, and that's fine. They're going to promote themselves. But the more you promote yourself, and the more that you speak about yourself, that causes there to be a larger target on yourself. So that's fine, and I have no issue with that. I have no issue with anybody talking trash or saying they're going to do X, Y, and Z thing. And the reason why is because in college football, eventually rubber meets road. At some point in time, we have to line it up and we have to actually have a game being played. And that's why this part of the season is always a little bit, hollow because, you have someone like me who sits behind a microphone and says, I think this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to happen. But the reality is those games are going to be played. And so whatever I think, whatever anybody else thinks, doesn't actually matter. Whatever anybody else says doesn't actually matter. But if you're actually going to line it up between the white lines, you have something to say and how you feel about yourself or your opponent, I'm all for it. But understand now, there's going to be a time where that has to be backed up. So is Colorado everyone's Super Bowl, quote unquote? Not necessarily. I don't think they're everyone's Super Bowl when it comes to how they're going to be viewed as a competitor. They're not at this point in time Alabama or Texas or Georgia. But at the same time, that's why you brought Deion Sanders to Colorado, was to have that national relevance. was to be a visible brand in college football. And I've said this before. That's why I think last year, in a lot of ways, should be considered a success at Colorado. Like, if you thought Colorado was going to go 8-4 last year, who is that on? Not on Colorado. They won one game last year. Over-under was right around three games, one game the year prior to Deion Sanders getting there. It's not on Colorado that you changed your expectations after the TCU game. Nobody forced you to do that. Nobody said that you had to put this high expectation on Colorado as they got to, the 3-0 mark. Like, it is what it is. It's a longer play, I believe, for Deion Sanders to have success there, and I'm excited to see what it is long term. But Shedeur Sanders is not wrong, man. With the way that Colorado operates, with how visible they are, they will get everyone's best shot. And you know what? The good thing with Deion Sanders, the good thing with that group out there, I think they welcome it. I think they understand that. And at some point in time now, the games will be played. And I can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.